Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3, season 2 of the iSphere. I'm
I'm Joy.
and we absolutely weren't talking about what we wanted to talk about on this stream 2 minutes before we started. We do have a whole bunch of stuff planned, but Joy, you had a particular idea that I think we can maybe start with.
So, this is something that I've been mulling over in my head for a while, and it was literally how aesthetics are ruining people's lives. And it was a gripe I had because I was in the Writable tag the other night, and I've been trying to organize an author community on Tumblr, and the Writable tag would be the ideal place to do it. Unfortunately, it's full of aesthetic goals instead of actual networking and communicating,
Hmm.
which threw me on a whole like tangent in my head about everything I've been seeing on Instagram with like the aesthetic restocks and like aesthetic homes, and it's like it's homes that looks like nobody lives in them. And
Yeah.
it really annoyed me because I've been doing, it's no secret I talk about a lot about ADHD and organizing your home. And a lot of the stuff that has originally been used by these aesthetic things were like body doubling hacks that were used by other people with executive dysfunction to like kind of organize their lives and feel connected with people. And now it's just like, you know, oh, watch me restock my really expensive coffee bar that you'll never be able to afford.
Yeah,
And
so
it's
kind
it
of
is yeah,
moving. I don't want to use the term life hack because I think that's like overused to shit. But like
yeah,
general like organizing tips and stuff that have now evolved into, and I've seen some of the videos as well on like TikTok, and it's like it's always the like kind of upper middle class like suburban mum type that's
yeah.
like filling like is like packing her husband's lunch and like everything that she does and how she restocks like the cupboard and has like it's you could almost like put a ruler and like you could measure the distance between like the granola bars and shit like that. um
Again, is if that's a manageable, so I'm going to talk about ADHD systems because that's what I'm familiar with, but it can be used by anyone who struggles to keep their home organized. It's not exclusive to people with ADHD. It's very helpful if you have depression or anything that causes executive dysfunction. And a lot of it is these clear plastic bins are really good for people that lack object permanence, which it's a
mhm.
very kind of haha joke, like, oh, you've got ADHD, you have lack of object permanence, you're a baby. It's literally part of your brain cannot store the information of, oh, yes, the granola bars are in that drawer. So you resort to using clear acrylic plastic bins so that you can find things and easily feed yourself and keep your home like semi organized instead of like chaos. And now it's being used for like, um, watch me fill up this jar with like $50 worth of like laundry detergent. It's
Yeah.
I I understand that some people find these organizing things soothing, but at the same time, it's just a lot of these TikTok and Instagrams are just people making these things and getting paid for creating unachievable aesthetics that were originally used for organizing your home in a way that to reduce stress. And I
Yeah.
have the exact opposite reaction when I watch these videos now. They make me stressed because I'm going, I don't have an organized coffee bar. I have a jar and a coffee grinder, and it's all of like it's things like it creates a very kind of almost like FOMO experience because you're like thinking to yourself, well, all these other people have got their shit together. If I tried really hard, I too could have a beautifully aesthetic kitchen. When what I really use these things for is to have a functional kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Um, yeah,
from my experience, like even seeing like Instagram homes and stuff, none of this ever feels lived in. It feels like it's like churned for content, and
it is. Yeah,
there's I don't know. I've never liked the idea of like so many modern builds in Scotland at least. There's just people who go in and it's all white and it's all grey and it's all silver and there's no colour allowed, colour is banned, and none of
yeah.
these places feel like they feel ripe for making weird aesthetic content in, but like I kind of actually feel the same way about it when I see people's like setups when like lots of streamers like decorate their streaming setup, and they've got like lovely lights around the monitor, and it's all very pristine and clean. My desk right now, I don't want to show you my desk right now. My desk right now is a minefield of just garbage, and not like actual garbage, but like just stuff.
Well, it's a flat surface, so it gets used for like, oh, I'm going to put this here.
Well, yeah. Like, I mean, I've got like a cup that needs washed. I've got like, I like when I get ready in the morning. I don't like standing in front of a mirror and doing like a face thing, or like putting beard oil in or anything like that. So I just have it on my desk here, because why wouldn't I? Like, it's the place I come when I start like work. Plus, it's directly in front of me, so it reminds me that I need to put this stuff on.
Literally have all my makeup and stuff here because that's where I do it. I only
Yeah.
I only do a full face of makeup for streams now, and even then it's not even a full face. But like it's that kind of it's where you live, it's where you work and where you function.
Yeah.
And that's what's important. And it's very alienating to see like there was one I watched this morning, and it was like a bathroom restock, and I was staring at it and going, this person's bathroom cabinet is like my weekly grocery shop. Like the amount of money they're spending on like oh, this is the guest bathroom, and it's filled with like lovely little things like miniature shampoos and razors and all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, my guests are lucky if I throw a basket at them that has like extra toothbrushes in it, a little bit of like the miniature travel toothpaste, maybe some tampons and some other stuff, and that's it. They do not get like a full cabinet restock for them, because A, they're not going to use all that, and B, like I feel it's very consumery.
Yeah, do you not think there's a kind of weird crossover? Just you saying like, oh, this is what I stock the guest bathroom with. You're not a fucking hotel, and I kind of feel like I have seen videos where like people put the wee kind of wrapped up disposable soaps that you would see in a hotel. Like, you're not a hotel. You're like, you've got a house that you live in. Although, to be perfectly honest, I would not be fucking surprised if a lot of these aesthetic videos were people like restocking their Airbnbs.
Maybe
That would absolutely not surprise me at all. This is now an Airbnb rant. No,
I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, the rest of the episode is just complete Airbnb war. But yeah, like I obviously the guest bathroom's one thing, because I mean, I suppose if like a majority of homes, I think, have one bathroom. They might have a spare toilet, but I'd say it's quite rare for homes here to have two bathrooms. And the like, I don't know, to have a full separate guest bathroom ensuite type thing. I mean, I suppose it could be an ensuite, but like, how big are these people's fucking homes?
Some of them, there was one that I'm very guilty. I do a lot of like home renovation stuff on Instagram. It's because I'm always looking for things that are like I follow a lot of like neurodivergent people that renovate homes and stuff, and I'm always looking for like the one system that will save me. There isn't one. There's multiple systems that help me wrangle my brain. But there was one woman who was just like, oh yeah, like here's my modest home, and it was a fucking like 90s McMansion.
Oh god. Yeah.
It was like a 3-story house, and I was like, your modest home?
Yeah. my humble abode.
You can fit my entire house into your living room, ma'am. But
Fuck's
yeah,
sake.
it was, and I also actually I got into a fight with another one the other day, because she was talking about how open shelving is a trend that is so open shelving, she's like, it's ugly, it forces you to style things, and it just takes so much effort. And I'm like, what forces you to style it? Who's forcing you to style your open shelf?
You
can use it for purely functional stuff. Like, I want to be able to see where my bowls are. And then she's like, yeah, but then you have to clean it. And I'm going, but if I'm putting it with stuff that I'm using every day, whilst it's in the dishwasher, I just wipe it off.
Yeah.
Like, but it was this whole like, she could not understand that her type of neurodivergency was different from mine, and she refused. Her way was the only right way. And I was just like, no, like you cannot say this is the one, this will save you, this is the one thing that will change the way your brain works. It's not. Like, it's a series of systems that I have that makes my home function for me, and not me having to adhere to a certain standard that I cannot attain. And
Yeah.
I don't want to try. I'm tired. I don't want to live an aesthetic lifestyle if the aesthetic lifestyle forces me to buy into a level of consumerism that is just the same as everyone else's. Like, and that's a big part of it too. Like, I sent you one of those articles this morning, and it was aesthetic
Mm.
used to mean your own personal style and sense of beauty. Aesthetic is now being pushed as conformity and,
It's
oh, buy this product that I linked on Amazon.
it's also weirdly being used as like a noun in some cases, specifically to
Yeah,
refer to that, like grey grey silver house. Oh, that is so aesthetic.
yeah,
Yes. So a house that you can't drink red wine in. Excellent. This is exactly what
yeah.
we want. Um but yeah, I think like there's a ton of videos like that. One thing I would say that is maybe the cure to these videos is the TikToks where you always see us like a swimming pool, like someone's private swimming pool getting cleaned. I'm a massive
Ugh.
I'm a massive fan of that. It's like it's so fucking good. I know it absolutely it gives like quite a lot of people the ick, but like like I love seeing pipes get unclogged. I think that's good. I don't know why I find that good, but it's good. There's this really mental one that I saw, and it's like this specific type of weed that can grow at on like it starts on the edges of open pipes that go out into the ocean or whatever, but it can like
Oh yeah.
it can grow inside. I think it's got a funny name, but it's really cool. But like there was a video of it, and it is fucking rank, right? It looks like green pus pouring out this pipe.
Hmm.
And this guy's got gloves on, and he goes and he like digs away at it in his finger, and you see the water like slowly eking out, and then it just goes whoosh. It's very cleansing to the soul. So
Yeah.
maybe that's
There's,
my version of the aesthetic videos that people really like to watch. I like to
but to
watch.
me that almost feels like productive because it's someone tackling something messy and it's something
Right?
that needs to be done. And
It's
I watch a lot of, originally I used to watch a lot of clean with me videos because it gives you the effect of body doubling, which for anyone who's not aware, body doubling is when you piggyback off of each other's productivity to get stuff done. It's sort of like parallel play for kids when you're sitting next to each other and you're just painting. The other kid gets into the vibe as well because there's two people doing the same thing.
yeah.
Um, and the clean with me videos I used to watch were very kind of like, it was very tired moms. Their house is a disaster. Casey Davis still does them with her house. She's an actual like ADHD
Casey Davis is
psychologist,
great. I was gonna
and
bring her up.
it's the houses are messy, and it's like I'm going to clean this whole space, and it does make you feel motivated because you're going, oh, that maybe took them like 15 minutes. I bet I could do that 15-minute as well, and I could get my little corner cleaned up as well. Whereas now all these clean with me videos are like pleasing ASMR and
Yeah.
like very gently filling like your Q-tips in one at a time so that they're perfectly lined up, and it's like it annoys me too because a lot of the language is co-opted as I'm so OCD I do this, and as someone who had I don't have full-blown OCD, I have the whatever's beneath it. um it pisses me off because I have friends that have OCD, and it's not like, oh, my Q-tips aren't perfectly lined up. It's literally the intrusive thoughts are so bad. If I don't do this,
Yeah.
someone I love is going to die. And it annoys me so much when it's like, oh, I'm so OCD, my house is not perfectly organized. I'm like, that's not what that means.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Um,
I feel like the the conversation around like the misuse of OCD and even the misuse of the term invasive thoughts. There was like one particular like tweet that went kind of big this week
oh yeah,
that was like, you know,
me giving into my intrusive thoughts, and it's
yeah,
like, bestie, that's an impulsive thought. That's
yeah.
very
It
different.
was gave into my intrusive thoughts and got tattooed. Oh wow, yeah, it's like not great at all. I think
my yeah.
you raised a really good point there about the like the productivity aspect of the like obviously the body doubling and jumping off of people's productivity.
Mm-hmm.
Like the people who are doing these like aesthetic videos where they're like stacking like granola bars or whatever, they're there's this veneer of them actually not being all that productive. Like one of the articles that you sent me about it, and I was reading, it was like one of the women says that she packs and repacks and repacks until she gets the best shot, and sometimes she's putting granola bars away for like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And
There was one woman, it was an hour and a half. She was filming the same sandwich
like,
for an hour and a half, trying to get the perfect shot. And I'm like, that's not mentally healthy. Like,
yeah,
you realize that's, perfectionism is a perfectionism pops up in a lot of disorders. It can also just be a general thing by itself. And as someone who has done therapy to work on perfectionism as part of my ADHD for the last 4 years, it's very like harming to have that perfect aesthetic, and to have it being shoved down your throat by an algorithm is
yeah,
really, really not great. But then also the people that are perpetuating it, they're making themselves unwell with it, because like, you could have been doing anything else with your time in that hour and a half that you were filming a sandwich. Like,
yeah.
why?
Well, I mean, is like versus some of the. Sorry, you might hear a cat screaming in the background.
You can hear a bean crying.
Just desperate to be cuddled. I don't know where she is. But the like I think what I found really useful about the Casey Davis stuff is that like like that 15 minutes when the washing machine's on, or like obviously like dishwasher might have a longer cycle or whatever, but like using that time to say like, oh, let's see how much else I can get done, and like using that kind of system like in a way that's you are doing something productive, you can then like see I got 45 minutes of something else done because I was doing this in the meantime. I found really useful. I really I like the way that like the Casey Davis kind of broke down the 5 kind of key things to like properly tidy, and like I think the favorite one was just like one of the tasks is you get a bin bag, you go to every single room, and all you're doing is binning rubbish, right? Like crisp packets, sweetie wrappers, anything that needs binned gets binned, and that is a task. And you like when that's done, you tie the bag, and you don't take the bag out or anything because that's a separate task. But then similar, you can go to every room and you can pick up all of the glasses, all of the dishes that have been like a cup that's been moved to one room or the other. And I find like that system's really good for keeping on top of things, because I think like it's easy to do one of those tasks. Like it's easy, and well, I say easy. I find it easy to motivate myself to do one of those tasks, because I see that as being like relatively productive, and then like the deeper clean that people talk about can obviously be done like later on, but I mean it saves me from having to do the tidy, do the dishes,
Yeah.
and then go, shit, I actually need to deep clean something else.
The thing is, you can't deep clean until you remove the stuff, like the stuff on the surface. Like you can't, you can't deep clean your desk if you don't take the dishes away.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it can be very, when you're in that kind of overwhelmed, being visually overwhelmed is a very common thing with executive dysfunction, and your brain just shuts down because you don't know where to start. So it can be very easy to have a guide that just says pick up rubbish,
Yeah.
because then you go, that's one task, that's okay. I'm going to set like, because I use it's a visual timer, because I struggle with time blindness. So this shows me how much is actually left of time. Because if it's just the clock for me, I have no idea. But if I see the color,
Oh.
sorry for that beep, it helps me to be like, oh, I've got like this much of a pie chart left of like the time left to do. Because otherwise, like, you can show me the numbers, you can put a timer on and tell me I've got 5 minutes, and I will have no clue what that means. I am completely time blind. And
it's probably worth mentioning to anyone who's listening on the podcast that we did actually see the timer there on screen. You can check it on YouTube.
Yeah. I can post it on Tumblr as well, because people always ask me every time I show that off.
Nah, that's cool.
But it's kind of like having it broken down is much easier. And the problem for a lot of even adults with ADHD is we weren't actually taught how to clean as children, because it's assumed that everyone knows how.
Yeah.
And that was a major argument I had with my mother from since about 5 years old up until about 26, and it was, why can't you just clean? And I was like, I can, but I don't know how to maintain it.
Yep.
And it was like it's so easy though, and I'm like, but it's not, because the system that my mother wanted me to use did not work for my brain. It was, my mother's very much everything behind a door, everything like empty, like very like, if she had her way, she'd be a minimalist. But unfortunately, she lives with two hoarders, which is my dad and my brother. And I think latching onto me and being like, your room needs to be perfect, was her way of coping with that. And but it gave me a real hang up over like my home has to be perfect before people come over, otherwise I'm gonna get judged. Like even yesterday, my father-in-law was coming over, and Mothman was like, "Is that okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like that's fine." He's like, "Well, normally you don't like surprise visitors." And I was like, "Well, the house isn't too bad, and it's not like they're coming over for dinner. Like it's difference between like I'm popping in on a random Saturday to hand in something versus I'm coming over for dinner and the house is a bomb site."
Yeah.
But I've taken to the kind of like the view of, if you want to see me, come over. If you want to see my house, make an appointment. So it's like, you have to warn me, because the way we operate is that we have stuff everywhere until we get to organize it.
It's
And it's, yeah.
it's funny because it's like I think there's also like I think in general like society I would say that your mum's way of looking at it is probably what's regarded as the norm, because Come Dine With Me, the show.
Yes.
So for anyone who doesn't know Come Dine With Me, the premise is it's home cooks. It's like 4 or 5 home cooks, and they all cook for each other on each day of the week, and then they vote on each other's like food and entertainment and all the rest of it. And the one thing, like, not that I would ever put myself forward for Come Dine With Me anyway, but the one thing that I always thought looked fucking the most exhausting out of all of it was the fact that the house had to be immaculate, because the cameras that would go in, they would follow the other guests around your house and they would judge the level of cleanliness. And you saw, like, guests in the house running their fingers up the banister to check for dust. And you're sitting there like, what the fuck? This person's cooking you a meal. Why are you inspecting their home as well?
And also, like, I remember those episodes, they go into the bedroom, and I'm like, excuse you?
Yeah, what the fuck?
The door's closed for a reason. Like, that's the space where I throw all my shit when you're coming over. Like, that's... No.
I fucking there. What are you doing? Get out of my room.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but like it's that kind of very, like, I remember that as a kid, like my mum would force us to, like, my godmother would be coming over and my mum would be like, clean your bedroom, and I'm like, why? She's not going to go upstairs into my bedroom, but she might. I'm like, why?
She shouldn't be.
But the whole house, like the whole house had to be clean.
Had to be clean. Yeah.
And she's coming to visit me in September. I know she's going to have a heart attack when she sees my current kitchen, because I have everything on like hooks that I can see them. I've got everything in glass jars that I can see them. I've got everything, like, I took my kitchen cabinets off the shelf, the doors, so that I could see what I had. And I love it. It looks dated because the kitchen cabinets that they are from the 90s, but like I can find things, which is something I can't say about my mother's kitchen back home. And like it will literally be like, where's this kept? And it depends on who put it away. It's just like, can't do it. And it bothers me because there's so many people that are in these neurodivergent spaces saying, this is, if you do this will stop you from having executive dysfunction. And I'm like, no, it won't. The person has to find their own system. And sometimes it'll be multiple systems Frankenstein together, because one true thing is not like, speaking of ADHD, it fluctuates. One day I will be fine with visual clutter, the next I will have a meltdown because there's too much stuff. And it's very kind of like almost like snake oily to be like, this will fix you if you do the one true thing. And I hate it so much.
It's weird because there's so much parallels between that and like the kind of exercise fitness TikTok as well. Like,
yes,
there's a lot about, like, I mean, the amount of times that I come across a TikTok and like a lot of the time it isn't the personal trainers doing it. There are some dodgy personal trainers out there, but the majority of them that I've seen have at least got their head kind of screwed on with regards to, you know, different people like losing weight and getting healthy at
Mm-hmm.
different rates. But you come across like there was one I came across the other day, and it was like this woman like, here's how I lost like 8 kilograms in like 3 weeks, and then just decided to like blurt out like just so much like non-scientific pish that doesn't help anyone, but was like, this is the only way you can do it. This is the blanket method that'll appeal to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone can do this, and it's not the same. It's just
I unfriended a friend recently for doing that, and it was somebody that I've known for a while, and they were posting about how, you know, you just have to keep cutting calories and doing more, and I'm like, they've shown that that doesn't work long term. Like they've shown you,
mm,
and they're like, yeah, well, myths about this, like your genetics are not like making you like this way and that, and I'm like, and I had to eventually say to them like, you realize the reason you lost a shit ton of weight is because you came off of a crap ton of steroids,
mm.
because steroids make you gain, like if you're not like using them to gain muscle like the muscle burros do, it
Yeah,
makes you gain weight eventually.
yeah, of course.
And it was the
It's
whole, no,
why
it's because it's because I cut calories and did this, and it's like,
that
it's not,
I
but
think
okay.
like, I mean, not to like, I don't think we need to dwell too much on the like the weight side of
Mm-hmm.
things. I know we've kind of probably ambushed some people with that. Apologies, but they like, I do find it particularly interesting that there are a lot of people out there who have lost weight, who, because they lost weight, think they can advise people how to,
Yes.
and they get it completely fucking wrong because they don't know the science, they don't like know the specifics of anyone that they're trying to advise, and they just come out with like kind of pseudoscience garbage. Um, is really how it kind of lands. And it's a shame.
It's a very kind of you know, it's the very kind of like, well, I did it so you can do it, and it completely ignores the
Yeah,
fact that other people are not you. Like
it's
it's very hyper individualistic to
yeah,
think that everyone has the same
it's
body as you.
because I used to like, there's like a particular subreddit. There's like Get Motivated, and it used to be filled with like really, like looking back on it now, it's like really kind of like cringe like quotes, like meaningful motivational quotes.
Mm-hmm.
But there was always before and after shots of people who've like gotten fit or like, you know, lost a lot of weight or whatever it was, and like I always hated like looking at the comments of it because there was always one person going, "Oh, how did you do it?" And then the person would set out a fucking guide of like, "This is exactly what I did. I was eating a boiled chicken and boiled peas and 3 chips for like, sorry, not even chips, white rice for fucking like 12 months for breakfast, lunch, and dinner." And it
The,
was
the
like,
the diet that Hugh Jackman described as torture.
yeah, it's like I just so bad. Like, you
Yeah.
know, I don't like seeing that stuff now. And when previously a younger version of me was probably quite enthused and motivated by it, it just doesn't fucking. It makes me want to get unfit when I read that stuff. Like I want to get unfit out of spite. It's like, fuck, just like, who are you to try and advise someone? Like, there's
Yeah.
obviously good advice out there, but like TikTok tends to have a very bad mix.
TikTok doesn't push you the best advice, it pushes you the most viral.
Mm.
And again with the home thing, a lot of cleaning TikTok is just like, here's how to make chlorine gas, and it's like, that, like, they're not intentionally trying to do that, but the stuff that they're doing, like they're mixing like 7 to 10 different chemicals to get the ultimate sheen, and I'm like,
That's
just
oh,
it's
you've
bad.
you've just reminded me of something because I remember it was like how to make your clothes like be the comfiest, right? And this woman had like an open top a washing machine,
Mm-hmm.
and I tripped over washing machine there. But like, so she was ladling like fucking so many detergents on top. Like you saw there was the powder, there was the liquid, there was everything, and I was just sitting there like, why are you treating your laundry like fucking baking a cake? There was so much. I'm not joking. There was like 5 or 6 different fucking products in here. It's like you don't need all that. You absolutely don't need all that. Is nuts. But
I mean,
yeah.
it's that very kind of like I get really annoyed when it's like, oh, I use those scent booster things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm biased because they give me anaphylaxis.
Okay.
So I hate a lot of scented laundry detergents because a lot of them are using the chemical and synthetic stuff that's actually really not that great for people that have
Yeah.
fragrance disabilities. And there was one that I watched, and it was literally, this is how I keep everything smelling nice. And I remember watching this TikTok, and it was like they had those scent beads like all through their house. I remember
Aye.
looking at it and going, you don't know what normal smells like anymore, do you? You have no concept of what clean smells like. You just have this idea of like chemical freshness.
Like yeah, like artificial freshness.
Yeah.
Um, nah, that's nuts. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
aesthetic videos, like, it's funny seeing something transform from what was originally a very almost life hacky, but also just like genuinely good techniques and advice for people who maybe um, struggle with the kind of mainstream way of like this is how you keep a house
Yeah.
tidy. Like an alternative way so that
And it
people can
helped
actually
removed a lot
start.
of it removed a lot of the shame because it was, oh, there's other people that don't know how to do that.
Yeah, to see it kind of co-opted
Yeah.
into the endless cereal cabinets and the laundry detergent being put into different bottles and shit. It's just like,
But I will say there are sometimes reasons for like, so I put my dishwashing powder into a jar because it's more accessible for my bendy fingers to do that than to lift the whole thing up for me.
mhm.
And that also annoys me because there are reasons that these aesthetic things can work, but then there's people who just take it too far, and it's literally just making money off of reels.
Mm,
And it's like it showcases a lifestyle that they're not actually living, but they're making money off of it by
yeah,
making you think, oh yeah, people do live this way. And I'm sure some people do, but I also think they've probably got, more money than sense, some of them.
and
And
probably a
also,
hell of a lot of cleaning staff.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly. They've probably got hired help that comes in and does stuff.
yeah.
Um,
Like
so that's, yeah,
I think that's one of the things about like the squeaky clean kitchens and stuff like that. It's like nobody cooks here. Your cabinets might look great and they might be filled with all the nice pastas and all the rest, but nobody fucking cooks in here at all. Um, but yeah,
yeah.
right.
Anyway,
I
that
mean,
was my rant for
we're
the
gonna
week.
we're gonna tie that up in a bow. I've realised that we managed to pick a topic there, Joy, that we didn't have a natural way of transitioning to any of our
I know
other
there was no
topics.
tangent for it.
Yeah, there was zero tangent. So, we'll talk about what I was doing this week. I was in Rome on Monday,
That's right, you
and
were.
and Tuesday and Wednesday. But like I feel like it was weeks ago. This like January is the longest fucking month in of all time. As I was saying before we started, this month has been 3 months long. It is fucking hellish. Um, but yeah, me and Jessica were in Rome, and we managed to pack so much stuff into like 2 days. We
I saw
walked,
some of your pictures.
we walked 50,000 steps. We walked
Holy
everywhere in
crap.
Rome. It was really good, and so like the first day that we arrived, we went round the Vatican. We went to the Vatican museums, and you could spend fucking days there. Like they've got an Egyptian section, they've got a Greek and Roman statue section, they've got like all of the kind of Renaissance artworks, and just there is so like you can spend days in some of the rooms. It is
Hmm.
absolutely incredible. And we were just kind of like we were there for like 3 hours. We were just constantly going around because like you go to each room and then you kind of get funneled in and you can see the Sistine Chapel at the end. Um, that Michelangelo guy could paint. He was actually not too bad.
I've heard that.
Yeah, he was all
I've
right.
heard he's good at ceilings. I've heard he's good at ceilings.
Yeah, he did a semi decent job. But yeah, I think like it was really good. One of the things, like, I don't want to just talk you through absolutely everywhere that we went, but one of the things I found amazing about Rome that it it didn't really click until we visited the Colosseum and the Roman Forum. But like Rome has probably the most historical depth out of nearly any city on the planet. It might be a little bit of a stretch. I mean, I'd say it's definitely up there.
Yeah,
Fucking top five at
probably up
least.
there.
Like, for like Rome in general, I mean, if you think about it, like, it's got all of the ancient Roman stuff. It's got all of the like Caesar's residence on like Palatine Hill, and like it's got the Colosseum there, and then you've got the Renaissance aspect of it, and you've got all of the stunning bits of architecture that came there. And I'm trying to think of another cities that's got the same level of that. There's probably some in the Middle East or potentially in
Hmm.
Asia, but I can't think for the life of me, like, as a city, like, it's probably one of the most historical cities in the world, I think.
I think it's one of the most well preserved, which I think
Yes.
makes it more. It's one of those. There's been a lot of effort put into the preservation, but I think I mean, my one of my friends was in Athens recently, and it's so weird because you can see all the ruins and all the everything else, and it's just surrounded by like shops and like,
Yeah.
and it's very kind of like in part of the everyday life.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like Rome is much more kind of like um tourist town almost. Like it's almost like you're going to like the
There's
Vatican City is almost like going to like Disney for like Catholics. Almost it's like very
yes.
heavily curated and segregated off to be kept in a specific way.
Yeah. 100%. But I mean, I did find it quite interesting that, like, obviously there is a lot of tourist appeal to Rome, but
Yes.
like like it was weird walking around. Like, you've got like Roman ruins on the left, and you turn to the right, and you've got this like giant, like, Italian Renaissance bit of architecture. You've got like the Trevi Fountain. You've got there's fucking loads. You've got like the Spanish Steps and everything like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I suppose it was quite, I don't know, I felt like weirdly, you were weirdly held in this kind of like historical, like, a lot of shit has happened in Rome, like a lot of shit. And I don't know, I felt way more fascinated than, let's say, a trip to London, if you get me, because I know that obviously London's um like growth and stuff, like, it was
Yeah.
obviously quite old, but there's not the same, like, ruins or anything. um but yeah.
It depends. Like it's fascinating to me because I worked in the tourist industry in Scotland, and there are people who treat Scottish castles and everything else as magical. And I think to me
Yes.
there's something of the other of it, because I know when we were in France a lot as kids, like it would feel different because it was a foreign castle. So it was like I'm like, but I literally grew up in a town that you could walk down the road and there'd be a castle.
Yeah.
And to me that wasn't special. But when
Yeah.
I take Mothman, who's American, he'd be like, "There's a fucking castle in this park," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, it's just whatever." Like it's wild to him that I treat that as so normal. Yet when I go to other places, I'm like, "Wow, this is really cool," and it's just I
Yeah.
think there is something of the other about it. But yeah,
Oh
I think
yeah.
you are right with like Rome and everything else. There is that kind of the history's been so carefully preserved.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas I feel like in other places, like in London as well, a lot of the history stuff's been turned into a gimmick. Like you
Yeah.
can literally do Jack the Ripper tour guide, and it's got like a
Mm.
fun fair ride at the end of it, and I'm like, that kind of detracts from it a wee bit for me.
Just a little
Um,
bit.
so it's one of those things where I think it depends on how the history's been preserved and how it's being interacted with.
Yeah.
I genuinely love doing the is it Queen Mary's Close in Edinburgh, where you can go
Yes.
underneath the city and
Yeah.
see old Edinburgh. I think that is magical. I
Yeah.
would do that endlessly if I could. Um, but it's at the same time, like, I don't get the same sense of history I get from the castle itself.
Yeah.
But the castle itself has been done to death for me, and it's not the history of the people that lived there, it's the history of the noble and the wealthy.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like when you're in, like, historical places, in, like, especially in European countries where, you know, the old streets are still narrow, you still walk everywhere.
Yeah.
You can be walking down the same paving paths that have been there since the Roman era.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, the parts of Scotland I grew up in, you will see Roman ruins. Like, you walked, you know, there's a Roman ruin, without doxing my parents, close to where my parents live.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, it's really crazy. It's just in the middle of a housing estate.
Yeah, I mean,
But
like,
it's been preserved. They put, like, a fence around it because it's a Roman ruin.
I mean, they find Roman coins in Falkirk all the time.
Yeah.
Because, like, obviously we had the Antonine Wall. Basically, the Roman Empire got to Falkirk and went, "Fucking hell, we are not going any further than this. This is bad enough." But yeah, it was just, I don't know, like, being in Rome, even for the short time that we were there, and, like, you know, going to the Colosseum and stuff, it was like, it was nice in a way that, like, I haven't, like, there's been a couple of times where I've felt like, whoa, this is very much, like, this is very, very historical. But it was nice to, like, nice to feel something again. It was nice to feel that again. It was good. The annoying thing is that the amount of fucking towers that are dotted about Rome, I was just constantly being reminded of Assassin's Creed the entire time. There's like they went and they copied the towers, right? So all the towers that you fucking climb as Ezio when you're in Rome is like, you can see like 5 of them from Palatine Hill, right? And it just annoyed the hell out of me, because part of me, a small tiny part, like a minuscule part of me, like 2% of me was like, I kind of want to replay, like, Assassin's Creed a little, like a little bit, right? A little bit. Only
at least it wasn't I can climb that. Like, that would be the worst impulse.
See, if I was in Edinburgh, I would 100% sign up for the Edinburgh parkour classes. I'd be all about that. But yeah, it's like I was like, because we went to the Pantheon, and a big part of, like, Assassin's Creed Ezio game is, like, I think you swan dive into the Pantheon from, like, the ceiling, and it's just like, I was like, I kind of want to do it just so I can be like, I've been in that street, I've been there, I've climbed that. But yeah, it was honestly, it was pretty good. They still need to do an Assassin's Creed Scotland though. I feel like it's a fucking no-brainer. Right?
That would be fun.
Yeah.
And we could rip it to shreds while we're at it.
Exactly. Here's a good question for you though. If there was an Assassin's Creed Scotland, and sorry for hijacking this and talking about Assassin's Creed, I've not started the rant yet. What time period would you like to see an Assassin's Creed Scotland set in? It would, for me, there's only 2 options. But I'd be curious to hear what your first one was.
I probably Robert the Bruce would be an interesting one for me.
Yeah.
And I think other than that, I can't think of anything now.
Not 1745, Culloden and stuff?
Yeah, that would be my other one.
Yeah.
It would be this. I was trying in my head. I'm thinking, am I being a cliche by saying Outlander? I would like to see that done so that it can to see if they do it any better. That would be my one thing.
Oh, they definitely wouldn't. That's the thing that we haven't spoken about. Diana Gabaldon.
Oh, Diana Gabaldon, yeah,
that was fucking Scotch bonnet.
Scotch bonnet.
It's like,
you're wearing
what?
Your Scotch bonnet.
And the SNP that have ruled Scotland since the 1950s.
I know. Since the mid-20th century.
It's like, what?
For those unaware, Diana Gabaldon, who is the author of the famously inaccurate Outlander series, came out with a tweet. Was it this week?
Yeah.
It was. This week's taken forever. It was this week saying that Scottish hats, the man's hat, which is typically called a tam o' shanter or a bonnet, if you will.
Yeah.
And her response was, it has historically always been called a Scotch bonnet, including by Scots, until the SNP came to power in the mid 20th century. Every Scottish person on Twitter went, "You
What?
what?"
It was like, what? Yeah.
Scotch bonnet is a type of pepper.
It is. It's a chili pepper, and it's quite a hot one, I think.
Just call it. She's literally everything in Scotland's called a Scotch. It's like, just call us fucking jocks, hen.
Yeah.
Just keep doing like it. She speaks with such authority about things that she has no clue about, and it winds me up to no end. And
Yeah.
you were in fucking Rome when it happened, so I had no one to tweet at. But anyway,
it was. Ah, man, you were sitting there like fucking dumbfounded. You were like, oh my god,
I was.
like, okay, if you care so much about your, like, you know, the thing that made you famous, you're known for the Outlander books, fucking research the country for less than, like, you know, for a bit more than 5 minutes. It just seemed so...
I have a fun story that most people here probably know if they follow my Tumblr.
I think we've actually heard this a couple of times now. Go on.
When I was 17 to 18, I worked in a fairly well-known tea house establishment in Glasgow, and it was a big tourist hub. And one time it was just me and an American couple came in, very nice, very polite. They sat in my section, and they were there the whole day. And they were telling me how this is their first time in Scotland, all the things they're doing and seeing, and they were asking me about Glasgow and, you know, different things. And eventually the husband gets up and leaves, and it's just me and this very polite, it has to be said, woman sitting in my section. And she turns to me and she starts asking, but what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm at university, I study English literature, blah, blah, blah. And somehow it gets on to, I want to write books when I grow up. And she starts asking me what I want to write. And then she goes, have you heard of the Outlander series? And in my head, I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sake, it's one of those Americans. Because Outlander at this time is very popular, if only because everyone wants to shag Jamie Fraser. And
it's fair.
I'm in my head, and my response to her was kind of like, yeah. And she's like, oh, you don't sound very enthusiastic. And I'm like, yeah, you can tell the author's never been to Scotland or done much research. And she just kind of goes quiet for a bit, and then we're chatting more about things. And she's like, so what would you say, like, we were chatting, like, what would you say the author could do better? And I'm like, Wikipedia.
Literally anything.
And then it kind of dies off. The kitchen's like, oh, we've got new shortbread. So I'm giving her shortbread and tea and everything else. And she pays me a wonderful tip at the end of it, has to be said. It was a fantastic tip considering who this was and what I'd just done. And with the tip, she hands me a card. And she says, contact me when you write your book. And I thought to myself, weird, but okay. Flash forward 10, 15 years, and I'm watching an Outlander interview documentary, and I'm staring at this woman like, why do I know you? Why do I know you? And then she was talking about how she'd only ever visited Scotland once, and it was, you know, within the last 10 years. And I felt my soul exit my body as I realised I had told Diana Gabaldon her workbook was shit to her face. And that she'd done no research. So anyway, I asked my dad to go find that card for me because I know I kept it. I know it's somewhere back home, and I'm like, I need you to give me the address on that card. Because I have to send hunger pangs to someone.
Did you?
My dad is hunting for the address for me because the card is in my old bedroom back home. Amazing. So my dad is currently looking for it. So that is what's happening. But,
fantastic.
It was a genuine moment where she got dragged to filth by like a little 17-year-old waitress who's just serving her tea by going, "Oh, very good actually. It's quite.
It's kind of shite.
The details right. The language is not even Scottish and like.
Oh man.
Whoops.
That is. So what you're actually saying is that that tweet that we were all subjected to, where she was talking about the Scotch bonnet, was probably like some sort of revenge designed to fuck you off.
Probably me personally, yes. It was designed 15 years later to make me as angry as possible by
Yes.
showing that she learned nothing from her visit to Scotland. So that
Oh
was.
man.
I mean, she's so famous as like a, you know, and there's a lot of Scottish people that are like, oh, she's so good for Scottish tourism. And I'm like, yeah, by making people go to our ancient standing stones and chipping them off for
Yeah.
keepsakes. They're destroying parts of our history. Anyway, but it was just that she speaks with such authority about things that she has no clue about because she's created her own fictional version of Scotland that she prefers because it validates her weird savior colonizer complex that she has.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know much about her beyond that, and to be honest, like, I think I stopped watching the show in like the third season or something. I did originally get quite into it, and then I don't know. They went to America, and I went, ugh,
the
can't
whole
be
I
asked
could
for
never
that
own a
anymore.
person, but we're happy to live in a plantation thing really rubbed me the. I stopped
Oh,
watching it, the American one too.
I so
It
I
was
don't
yeah.
I don't think I even saw up to that. I saw they were in the Caribbean for a bit, and you did get some clear white savior stuff where she was very
Yeah.
affronted by the slave trade happening, and then they got shipwrecked off the coast of America, and I was like, that's enough from me, thanks, cheers.
Yeah, it was very clear that who's the main character has like a whole I could never benefit from slavery and yet she lives in the plantation for months on end having fancy dresses and being dressed by slaves that are treated nicely and I'm just like you're
Don't worry,
and it's
she's a good slave owner.
yeah it's that trope, it's that very kind of like sickening but don't worry they were good about it and it's just
Yeah,
like uncomfortable, very very uncomfortable.
yeah.
um
I think speaking of good slave owners, actually, we were gonna have a wee chat about Hogwarts Legacy, um, which we're not gonna go into depth on like the game itself because I feel like that's been done to death by a million people, but yeah, there's you can own a house elf in the new game that's coming out. I think that's yeah. You can also visit the elf slave kitchens. That can be a fun room to explore. There's probably going to be a collectible or two in there.
For those who can't see the video right now, you can just see the will to live leaving my body.
So
Just
we're okay. So I won't talk too much about the game, but I do think there's going to be this really interesting, like, we were kind of talking about it a bit before, but in terms of like content creators and streamers, there's obviously like all the mainstream ones are going to be playing this game because
yes,
it's it's like mainstream that they won't see it as like I don't want to I don't want to like bum anyone out, but the game's gonna be popular. The game's gonna be a mainstream success, and don't be too surprised if it ends up being game of the year just because of the amount of hype that's there. So I'm gonna put
yeah,
that forward first. That being said, there has been like I think quite a lot of people, particularly from our content creation side, that there's gonna be like an acute awareness of like the type of content creator you are if
yes,
like for content you want to play this game. And I know that there'll be people who hate play it the same way that people hate watch shows because they'll want to try and rip it apart, and there'll be people who are uber fans who are very much desperate to almost rub it in kind of trans people's faces, and like what trans people and allies have been speaking out against supporting something that's explicitly like helping J.K. Rowling. Like there's pushback against that in general. Like people don't want don't tell me that the game that I'm playing could have adverse effects on people. It's got
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do with me. And then you get all of the other kind of like excuses, like, oh well, I'm supporting the devs. The devs have already been paid.
Yeah.
You know, like that kind of level of discourse. And like, I do think that there will. I don't want to. Maybe there won't be like a line down the middle, but I think like me personally, I would be a little bit skeptical about like being quite open and chatty with like another streamer that feels compelled to like defend their right to stream the game, if you get me.
Yeah.
Like, if you're gonna play the game, like, just you don't need to make it like a stance, but like I know that there'll be people who play the game and they just keep it quiet and they'll play the game, right? I don't have any intention on playing the game. I certainly don't have any intention of like streaming the game, but I think there will definitely be some content creators that see other content creators streaming the game and kind of put them on a like I don't know, I don't really want to be associated with you. And
Yeah.
I think there will be content creators that do stream the game who react extremely negatively to any pushback from them streaming it, and that'll breed its own kind of thing.
It's a very kind of it is polarizing for a lot for content
It's
creators
very
because I've seen so many people coming out and saying I have to do what's popular to keep my business running. And this is something that we've dealt with a lot in my community from the writers aspect is sometimes you have to pick.
yeah.
Sometimes you have to pick that there's going to be some lean months where you do not engage with something because it is bad. I fully disengage from some people within my community because they are toxic, and it's that kind of like, well, I have to do like there's a difference between like the big thing in my world is people going, oh, we can't avoid Amazon for KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing, because we can't. But you can avoid engaging with authors that write probably like the most famous one I can think of is the Nazi romance series. Like,
A
why would you
what?
choose to be affiliated with? Yeah,
A
there's a lot of
what?
people that
A fucking what?
historical Nazi romance series that came out in 2020 of all years, and you know there's different types of discourse. There's the we literally cannot not use Amazon even though it's evil, and then there's you can choose who you associate with, and you can choose not to be part of their newsletters. You can choose not to be part of their book tours. You can choose not to do interviews with them. You can choose those things just as you can choose to not engage with Hogwarts Legacy if you're a streamer. And the idea that, well, I have to engage with what is trending at the moment and what is getting views to maintain my standard is like, okay, well, what do you care more about? Having integrity and maintaining your core audience and not hurting them, or do you just do what is best for your clicks?
Mm.
And it's one of those very weird where people are saying it's the exact same thing if you play this game you're an evil person versus like there's very clearly drawn lines for some of these things, and I think a lot of big content creators have more sway to be like, well, I'm not going to engage with it because I can a lot of these big content creators could alter the path of what is popular if they chose to.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of them will. I think a lot of them will stay quite comfortable in their little. They have the same amount of followers and views and clicks, and it shouldn't. The onus should not be on small content creators to say, actually, no, fuck you. I'm not engaging with this thing.
Yeah.
And it's the same with like a lot of the indie romance stuff that I mean, indie publishing in general. But we are the ones that are having to say, hey, this is not okay to have in our community, and it's all the big name authors are like, I don't see it, I don't know what's
It's
happening, and it's just like
it.
it's very frustrating.
I think it's interesting that like there will be people that spit the dummy, and
Mm-hmm.
like they almost get that kind of like petulant defensiveness. And I
Mm-hmm.
100% see that happening with this game. 100% see it happening. I think it's going to be, um, I think it'll be extremely polarizing. Like you're already seeing creators who have had early access to the game, and there will be probably smaller creators that maybe for the first time they get to play the game before other people, and that's how you kind of pull them in, and it's
Hmm.
cuddly and stuff. But like as someone who obviously streams and who has I've done like sponsorships, with like Udi and like Huel and stuff like that. Like that's stuff that I would actually like kind of use and do, and I feel like I don't chase sponsorships in the same way that maybe other people do. And I know that there'll be people who will want to point to their early access preview of a Hogwarts game as like this is why you should be sponsored by me. But like
Hmm.
I think there's quite a lot of people out there that like is something that you don't really want to do as like a content creator at all. Is you don't want to like chase absolutely every opportunity because it just makes you look sporadic as fuck. Um, but yeah, I think it's it's one of those games. I just wanted to touch on it briefly. I don't think we need to go into it.
Yeah.
There's
We
lots of
don't. We
like
don't.
there's lots of stuff in regards to the game that's already been flagged by other people. Um, but I am curious to see how that turns out when it launches because I think it will be probably a bit more polarizing than others. Um, so there was other game news, however. I played one of the best games I've played this year, and I know that we are still in January. But there was a game called Hi-Fi Rush that was released, and it's like a rhythm game with a fantastic art style, like cartoony art style, um, and the main character is a guy called Chai, and he's got an iPod embedded in his chest, and it's like a rhythm action game. And I streamed it on Friday, and it was genuinely incredible. It felt so fucking good to play. And I think one of the things that's interesting about it is that it has eclipsed Forspoken, which is another game that was released last week, I believe. I have no idea how long January has been. This has been the most insufferable January
It's been
ever.
10. It's been 84 years, to be honest. We're all that women at the Titanic going. It's been 84 years, and it's fucking
but
January
it's
29th.
so as Waffle Fraud is saying in chat, Hi-Fi Rush has sold more copies than Forspoken. It released after Forspoken. There was no marketing. It was a surprise release that was announced at I think it was like a Bethesda showcase, and it is sailed kind of past Forspoken in regards to sales, and the really interesting comparison between the two is that they have the same kind of dialogue, and like Forspoken was like heavily criticized in its writing as being cringy.
Hmm.
Like it's that kind of Whedon-esque dialogue that you'd find in Marvel. Um, yeah,
Everything's a quip. Everything's
yeah,
a quip.
everything's equipped. However, the cartoony Hi-Fi Rush game has the same level of quips, and everything's quite wacky and funny, but it it works because of the art style and because of what's on screen and everything else. At least it works for me. And I was trying to have like a good thing of like I've not played Forspoken, all I've seen is like the videos. And I think the writing in general for both is probably fine, but I was wondering how much the art style played a role in my acceptance of that
Yeah.
type of writing in one medium versus a different one for Forspoken. Because Forspoken's going super real. It's like it's going for a realistic world. It's the graphics and everything are very very real. Um,
Hmm.
and it was just interesting seeing the balance, and I was kind of checking myself as well because it's like, holy shit, is this a protagonist thing? Because for Spoken you've got a black woman who's the main
Hmm.
the main character, and then you've got like kind of white guy for Hi-Fi Rush, and I was like, have I got a kind of like prejudice here? But I think it's because the realism side of Forspoken makes the quippy dialogue feel a lot less. I don't know. It's like it's
Natural.
a lot less natural and a lot more forced. And I feel like you could easily create like a cartoon character and a cartoon world in Forspoken, and I was kind of thinking it would work a bit better. But
Mm-hmm. I've not looked at Forspoken. It was something that I was looking at, going, "Oh, that would be." It looks graphically pleasing to me, but all the reviews I've been seen have been like, "Oh, it's not well written. It's very kind of like it's Marvel-esque. It's that
yeah,
kind of like there's no cohesiveness to it. There's no depth for something that looks so real. There's nothing real about the way anything's been written, which is a shame. Whereas you can get away with a lot more kind of like silly comic relief, you know, quippy one-liners if it's animated. I think because
yeah,
it's about being genre savvy. As was it, yeah, Kahita said that in chat, but it's knowing your genre and knowing what you're writing to, and also what people expect from what they're being. Keita, thank you for correcting me. From knowing what is being broadcast to you through the genre, and I
yeah,
think it was a miscommunication of like it's that kind of. Um, I think all the trailers and stuff that I saw for Forspoken miscommunicated what the game would be
yeah. I
based on
think.
how it looks and how it's been
I mean,
enacted.
I think people have probably gone out of their way to hate on Forspoken a bit more because it's had a chance to build up. When the trailer first came out and people heard um, the writing for the first time, it was mocked relentlessly, and I think that like while a lot of the writing I've heard is pretty poor, um, I I do think people have probably gone like out of their way to try and like hate on the game a little bit more than it should be. That being said, I do take issue with any. I think it looks like it's Unreal Engine 5 and it kind of still looks like a tech demo, um, which I don't know. I'm not. I've got a thing about Unreal Engine 5. It just seems weird, but like there was a really good article that was written about it, and it was like a guy who was exploring why he finds that type of dialogue like cringy, and like why he felt like it didn't work, and it's because like it feels like the writers can't take the work that they're doing like seriously. Like that Hi-Fi Rush game is absolutely not taking itself seriously from the very beginning. It is a ridiculous like
Yeah.
it's a ridiculous concept because a guy is about to get his arm replaced with a robotic arm, and as he goes into the machine his iPod falls in with him and he fuses with it. And that's the concept, which is ridiculous. um and I feel like a kind of Forspoken one, like it's not it's trying to be serious. Like like one of the like characters in the game is like there's these like high priestesses of the realm that have been corrupted, and they're called
Mm-hmm.
tantas, and she takes the main protagonist like prisoner, and the protagonist is being all quippy and stuff, and it's like, while that's good, and I do kind of like the fish out of water stories where it's like someone gets whisked away to a fantasy world and they've got to learn new things, um, someone being overly sarcastic and stuff almost immediately is a bit odd. Um, it's yeah,
It's that very kind of you. There's no introduction to the character beyond they're an asshole,
yeah,
almost.
yeah.
Um,
Which doesn't land a lot of the time. Um, Sorry, we're all looking at Holly Mop on
looking at
your
Polymop, just
lab at
trying
the
to get
moment.
onto my desk.
Ah.
What are you doing?
So, so Dead Space, the remake, has also come out. Yeah, this is the gaming section of the podcast now. We're totally, yeah, we're talking games. But the Dead Space remake came out. And did you know that Dead Space is now woke, Joy? It is now, it's now woke. I shall read out some of the Steam discussion boards. Is this game actually woke? About wokeness. Why is there so much wokeness injected into this? Kill 30 enemies achievement is broken? Every character but Isaac is gay. And my personal favourite, woke boobs for more stable FPS. So apparently they adjusted the size of the boobs of one of the characters, and they are they are claiming that the justification for this from the developer is that having slightly smaller boobs would create a more stable FPS.
I, I mean, as someone who's installed jiggle mods to Skyrim, I don't disagree. But that's also Skyrim and not Dead Space. It's wild the things that people come away with. It really,
Oh
really
man!
is.
So like, I think there's like a reference to like one of the characters like so far in my playthrough of a guy who refers to his boyfriends, or like he's had a
Mm-hmm.
he goes he's like they've all he's saying it in a kind of like um panicked way. He's like, oh my god, they've all turned. Sarah, like Sarah turned, my colleague Sarah, and a couple of my ex boyfriends turned, and he's saying it in this like panicked way, and
Mm-hmm.
I
Just a
can't.
a
It's just
throwaway
a
line.
completely throwaway line. It doesn't like it. Absolutely doesn't fucking matter. Everyone's a necromorph. The Ishimura's fucked. Like it's over. Like the whole thing's a nightmare. But yeah, there seems to be a lot of people who've picked up on. Like there has been some slight writing changes to embellish a bit more on the world, and a lot of them so far in my playthrough have been like pretty solid. Like I don't know how much you know about the original Dead Space, but
I do.
it
I
was
remember watching it. Yeah.
like it was really good and really creepy at the time. But like what was embellished more in like Dead Space 2 was like the Church of Unitology and
Mm-hmm.
how it all kind of happened, and you don't really get fed a lot of that throughout your journey in Dead Space One. But they go a lot harder on it in this. So they've rewritten some story pieces. They've fleshed out a bit the characters, which is quite nice. And Isaac talks a lot more, which is an interesting choice because he's always been quite a cool silent protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say it's been pretty good so far. It's quite like it's quite I quite like the way that it's been done from a remake perspective because I think they've kept and honoured the original premise of the game, but
Code of it. They've kept the code intact.
they've fleshed out some bits because I think they had to completely remake it. I think they ended up doing they've remodeled the necromorphs so like they've made it fucking creepy as shit. Actually, like limbs have like
Nice.
layers to it now. So like originally you would use the plasma cutter to like cut off a limb. Now you can shoot a limb once and like the skin will come away and you'll see the bone underneath. And it's like way more extreme. Like so they've got a completely new kind of like physics model on the body and how the body like comes apart. Which is
Cool. It's very gross, but it's also very cool that they're able to
it's
do that now.
it's technically very cool, and sorry if that made anyone super squeamish, but like it's quite a technical marvel. They also have some rooms that were like originally closed in the original game, and they've now got like mini puzzles, so you can like unlock parts of the ship that were previously unopenable, and
Yeah.
like that comes with like cool jump scares and different like audio logs and text logs, and it's really quite good so far. It's still very much the same game, but I do think it has been enhanced quite a bit. Um, so yeah, that's the other kind of release that came out.
I think for a lot of people that get offended over these changes, they for people that are very snowflakes get offended by everything. They sure do get offended by a lot of things
Oh
that
yeah,
don't really impact a lot. Like it's very like, oh, the character said, oh, it destroyed my boyfriend. The thing ate my boyfriends, or whatever. So what?
yeah.
Like
Who
that
fucking
doesn't
cares?
detract from yeah. Like, if you're that like upset by
Yeah.
casual throwaway things like, oh, the boobs got made smaller, and if it's a ridiculous reason like, oh yeah, it makes the FPS more stable, that's just ridiculous. You can just make boobs smaller because we have better design tools now, and not everyone needs to look like they've got like a 1950s bullet bra on. That, I
Yeah.
mean, that was the thing with Tomb Raider when they made Lara Croft less like pixelated. She lost some of her like assets that everyone was very fond of. But it's like, if that was your sole reason for playing Tomb Raider, like, just keep playing the old version.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to, like, if you don't like the thing, don't engage with it.
I'm
That's it.
yeah. I'm currently looking at the I'm currently looking at some of the lists and some of the discussion boards, and they are like, folk are fucking mental. Like, I'm sorry, but like, they're just why, like, they're railing against the whole um the woke side of things, as if as like, I'm sorry, but Dead Space contains the story of a giant mining spaceship that mines a planet and rips chunks of the planet out to be mined. There is a colony on that planet. They find an evil marker that turns people in to necromorphs, which is a kind of like basically sci-fi zombie, and they grow extra limbs everywhere. How is that not an anti-capitalism story? And people are like, well, this is fucking woke. The original game wasn't about... wasn't... That's
It's
right, we're
like
in...
people when like, well, when did Star Wars become political? Always.
Yes.
It has always been political. You just weren't paying attention.
I'm desperate to find out. Like, yeah, there's just... It's... Like, I do not understand where people like are coming from. Another thing that people have also been calling the game woke for is the improved accessibility features. Um, who would have thought? But there's been something that I actually thought was quite a good addition, is that prior to cutscenes and prior to specific points in game, you can have the game tell you to to basically give you a content warning. So, for example, there's one scene in the medical bay. You go inside a door, and one of the nurses is like hacking up a dead body in front of her. Right? She's like, it's like she's lost her mind, and she's like still trying to perform surgery on someone who's just in pieces. Right? And then she turns around and sees you, looks directly at the camera, and then like slits her own throat. Right? Very graphic, very over the top, and not something that quite a lot of people would want to see, probably. I mean, if you're playing a horror game, it might be part of the parcel, but for some, it's not. So there's an accessibility setting that blurs that content. So you'll get like an image over it, so you don't actually see it being done. It warns you that the audio doesn't change, so you will still hear all of the audio. And you can also have the game tell you prior to it happening that there's a scene containing certain extreme violent imagery ahead. And
That's
apparently,
really cool, though.
yeah, it's like that's like it's how a really solid remaster's been done. I mean, if you look at some of the other like high quality remasters that have been done recently, I think The Last of Us Part 1 got praised a lot for it, but like they
Mm-hmm.
really they looked at the original game and were like, how do we make this more accessible for people? And game accessibility is a massive, massive thing now. Like, it's becoming way more common and way more expected. I think there probably sometimes does need to be a little bit of a balance between an indie game that maybe can't offer all of the like
Yeah.
accessibility features under the sun, but like the ones that like the small indies that go out their way to do things like controller remapping, like really really impacts folk who have maybe physical disabilities and they can't, use certain buttons on the controller, for example.
Mhm.
So being able to remap that's really good. But AAA studios, there should be like a standard, and I think having stuff like that allows people to play is really really quite good. More people should experience game stories. There you go.
And it comes back to like people that complain about how, oh, you're playing on easy mode, you're not really experiencing it.
Yeah,
People play games for different reasons.
yeah,
I intentionally turn Like, even with Skyrim, I just turned God mode on because I don't want to fucking fight a dragon anymore. I've been playing that game for however many years? 10 years? I want to wander around being a bard, playing my songs, picking flower. Like, I play
Yeah.
games for different experiences. If
Yeah.
I want to play the story fighting game, I will turn that off and play a different character.
Yeah.
And it's, I like to have my options open. Like, even with, like, there was a game I played recently, and it was, and I can't even remember the name of it, but there was no easy option because when you tried to click on easy, it was, "What are you, a pussy?" And I was just like, "Okay, well that's a refund. That's a sale loss."
Yeah.
And it was a very weird thing to be like, "Oh, you just have to get good at video games." It's a hobby. You don't have to be good at it. You are there to enjoy it.
It's funny because like the flip side of that I've seen recently is, and I quite like the idea is, um, like obviously people talk about game balance, right? And like this is always the hardest thing to do. Is that normally you have, for those of you who don't know, normally in a game you have one mode which is a how the game is supposed to be played, and then you
Mm-hmm.
have a harder difficulty for your diehards or your veterans, and then you have an easier difficulty. I think quite a lot of people that I've seen recently have been swapping out the actual term easy mode for just story mode.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, I would want someone to be able to experience The Witcher 3 as a story and enjoy a story mode than get put off by like having to do regular. So I quite like some of the games that I play. Like I will say this: I used to be an absolute diehard, and to be honest, in some games I still am. But like I need to complete this on the hardest difficulty, otherwise my life is worthless and I'm a piece of shit. I was like that level, and I was also like an achievement hunter as well. And I now see myself as a recovering achievement hunter, because I try not to like bother too much about it. And then it's like I kind of like sometimes when I'm playing games, I really do just want to like enjoy the story and have fun. And like I think when we were playing the forest together, it was fun to dial up the forest's difficulty because we were playing the forest, we were building our own fort, and we were just gonna defend it, and we didn't care about the story.
Yeah,
But if we were
we actually
just
got an achievement which was avoid the storyline.
yeah,
Do
exactly.
you remember that?
Yeah,
That was fun.
it was like deliberately not look for your son.
Yeah.
Oh man, Sons of the Forest comes out next month.
Oh, we should play that.
We
That should
should
be we should take a week off from the podcast and just play it for
yes,
a
we should.
Sunday.
That'll be really good. Do you know that you have NPCs in it though? You can have
What?
allies. So
That's cool.
what one ally is just this random dude, who you can instruct to go and cut trees, and like they're actually intelligent, and they'll go and they'll like create a pile for you, and they'll just keep doing it. Um, but there's also a Virginia NPC who's friendly and who can help you. And she has three arms, and so she holds a shotgun, and then she's got another arm coming out like the top, and it holds a pistol. It's really cool.
That sounds, yeah. Can we
Yeah.
adopt her? Is that this is our new child?
Yeah, yeah. It's like, he's like, apparently you can find her, at like a barn, or you can find her like showering in the wilderness under a waterfall. So I'm a little bit like, oh no, what is it? Oh no, there's gonna be Sons of the Forest Rule 34 already, but
I'm sure there already is. I'm not
yep.
going to look for it though.
I feel kind of compelled to now.
I'll
But no,
leave you.
like
You do that in your own time.
that that'll be good though. I mean, like I'm looking forward to that. And to be honest, I actually thought February was absolutely full of games, and I think there's only a couple that'd be after.
My I think it's February. Hang on, I need to check now because I'm desperate to find out. I think my Mark of the Rose from Fallen London is out,
Mm,
so that'll be my romance game that I'll be playing non-stop. That
nice.
April. It was moved to April, so yeah, February. There's
There's Atomic Heart, which looks quite fun. Atomic Heart
Yeah, I've seen that.
is like a sci-fi like Soviet supremacy game where it's like you fight. I think it got a little bit of pushback though because of the like. I think one was the optimization. They had like an Nvidia gameplay trailer demo and it was like stuttering like hell. Um,
Mhm.
but we'll see how that goes.
My
Um,
medieval dynasty game, they're coming out with a Wild West version in February,
oh, cool.
and it should in theory have multiplayer on it potentially. So that could
Cool.
be fun. We could build a ranch and pretend we're in Red Dead 2 in the happy timeline.
Yes, that's exactly what we can do. I know that February for me is going to be super busy. Oh, that was another thing I was doing today. By the way, I was preparing my costume for this
Oh,
event.
that's right. Yeah.
So there's an event. It's not tomorrow. It's the following Monday, and I am intrigued. I am interested to see how it goes. But the costume's coming together. It's looking very cool. I've like my mum has been my like saving grace with this because I'm not a costume designer, but she's been helping me out because she's got all like the fabric scissors and she's like
Nice.
she used to work in the theater, so she's like very like she knows like I've got this really I'm not great at seeing like bits of material and knowing exactly what could be crafted into like good cosplay sort of stuff. Um, but she's made me like leather shoulder pauldrons,
Nice.
and a gauntlet, and I've got a bit of fur and like a belt, and then I'm gonna be wearing a kilt at the bottom. So
You're
I'm
going to
gonna
be the best dressed one there.
oh I mean the moment I got a kilt, I was like I'm gonna look fucking class here. But yeah, I'm very excited for it. It should be good fun. Um,
Nice.
oh, and that's another thing I'm going to mention. I'm going to totally hijack our podcast to like post random stuff. But the next like Steam Next Fest is coming out. So Steam Next Fest, for anyone who plays games and who doesn't know already, Steam Next Fest, there's like a shitload of demos that come out, and people add like tons of games onto their wish list. So the game that I'm helping work on, we've got a demo out that's actually now. So I would really encourage anyone to play that because it'll be cool. It's Spiritfall on Steam. Go and play it. It's really good. Um,
It does look good. I've watched you play bits of it before.
I'm hoping to play some of the demo on stream. I think because it's very I don't know. I find it like quite addicting. If anyone likes Hades or if anyone likes kind of like platform fighters, um, it's been described by some people as Hades meets Smash Bros, which is I'd say quite
It's interesting.
yeah. I'd say it's pretty good. Um, and also wishlist it. That would be super helpful. Um, but yeah, I think we'll have to run a poll next week, Joy. That's what we'll do. We'll run a poll, and that poll will ask, how sick is the iSphere audience of hearing about games? Because I feel like I slip into my comfort zone really quickly. Um, but yeah, we'll
Do you know,
we'll ask them.
If Tumblr gave us polls, we could find out. But I have not yet been gifted with polls
Oh
because they know. Do you have them?
no, I don't. I don't think I've got them. How do you do them? Is it just a create
Uh,
post thing?
it's a create a new post thing. I'm actually going to see if the iSphere has it because if the iSphere has it and I don't,
That would be
I will
fucking
start
hilarious.
flipping tables.
uh,
um, it does not. There we go.
Bugger.
But yeah,
So
they're
close.
still they're still rolling out polls slowly, and everyone's spreading the misinformation. Like, oh, it's just like the instant messages. You infect people with it. You don't. That's not how it works. Staff are just doing a slow rollout.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nah, that's fair. Right, I think. I mean, I don't know. Is it safe to? I think we're done.
I think we're done. I
I
think
think
we're
we're
done for
done.
the day.
I think it's better to play it safe than try and strain another thing on. But we'll be a bit more prepared next week. Um, I'm exhausted. I mean, I was in Rome at the start of this week, so I'm fucking goosed. I need a sleep. Um, but yeah, I just need to go and like just sleep for 40 years.
That's valid.
Um, But okay, in that
Thanks,
case, we'll wrap up here. For those of you who are in Twitch chat, don't go anywhere because we will be hanging around for a wee bit afterwards, and we'll shout together into the ether. And if you are listening on the podcast, thank you very much for doing so.
for downloading.
Yeah, thank you for downloading. It really means a lot. We are getting pretty good download numbers, which is pretty spicy. We'll give you an update on that soon, actually, because I think we've hit a milestone recently, Joy. So
See, I don't check the numbers. I just rely on you to tell me what the numbers are.
I meticulously check the numbers. Anyway, thanks very much for joining us again for episode 3 of season 2, and we will see you next time.
Bye bye.